lives in a pineapple under the sea.
SpongeBob SquarePants!
Absorbent and yellow and porous is he.
Hey everybody, this is 22 Tiger Dude. I am here with my guest star J53518 to review the SpongeBob special Friend or Foe, requested by originally Wonder All the Way, but now it's Tristan Matthew.
The story is that Mr. Krabs tells a story to SpongeBob and Patrick about how he used to be friends with Plankton, how they grew up when they were younger, and they ran a dumpster hop by Mr. Meaty's, and they created their own Krusty Krab place. The inspiration, it was Mr. Krabs and Plankton's bickering when they first became friends. They created the Krabby Patty, and because of that, they became famous. But as all friendships go, it's plagued by greed, distrust, dishonesty, and hateful vengeance for the soon-to-be rivalry. But could they always be friends? Review of the plot. I love this episode. It's a good origin story to how Mr. Krabs and Plankton became friends. As always, the animation is top-notch. The writing is very good. It's good to know that Mr. Krabs wasn't always a stubborn crab, and that Plankton wasn't as diabolical as Stewie Griffin underwater wearing a tank. But it's nice to know that the writing is good, like I said, and it's nice to see Mr. Krabs and Plankton being friends than just bitter old enemies. But like all good stories, things have to change for the better. So I would like to give it a 5 out of 5 stars.
I think this is a very well-made SpongeBob episode. I loved almost every moment of it. It's just a very great way to tell the story of Mr. Krabs and Plankton, knowing that they weren't always enemies. And I thought the special did a very nice and interesting job of showing how obviously they just became enemies. It was something a little different for SpongeBob. It kept you really interested. And yes, sure, you have the humor here, but it's really more about the origin story of Mr. Krabs and Plankton, how they became friends, and how their childhood went. And we learned that Mr. Krabs didn't exactly have the best childhood. So it was interesting to see some development out of Mr. Krabs' own past, too. And the fact that he had to wear dirty clothes, like when you watch that, in a way, you could kind of understand why Mr. Krabs is greedy, because he kind of grew up really poor. It's just really interesting to see how Mr. Krabs and Plankton really evolved as characters, and how they first discovered making the Krabby Patty, and how the two of them made it together. 100%. It is just so terrific. I really loved the stories. And I loved how Mr. Krabs and Plankton, they're going back and forth telling each other their stories because they think one story is not real and they think the other story is not real. So it turns out that half of the stuff they said weren't real, and it wasn't until Karen at the end explained what the true story was and how that was explained. It was just really interesting to me. Really well written, brilliant job to the writers. And I did also really enjoy the Patchy the Pirate scenes in this episode too. The only problem I would say is that at the end, Mr. Krabs and Plankton, they make up, and it seems like they were going to really be friends, but then of course, even with all the heartwarming storytelling, they just still had to be enemies. It was Plankton really, because Mr. Krabs and Plankton were hugging, and Plankton reaches for the formula and just runs out. It's like, really, Plankton, you have the potential to be back to being friends with Mr. Krabs, and you just had to swoop him out and betray him like that. It's like, come on, at the ending of the special. But overall, other than that ending that did bug me a little, I still really love Friend or Foe. It's really, really interesting. Great character development out of Mr. Krabs and Plankton. This is just one hell of a special. I'm impressed with it overall. So I'm going to go ahead and give the special a 9.5 out of 10. Really loved it. It's definitely one of the best SpongeBob specials to ever come out, in my opinion.
Is it better than Atlantis SquarePants?
Oh, miles away better than Atlantis SquarePants, man. Please check out J53518's channel. I will leave a link in the description below.
Well, as always, J53518 here. I'm glad to join you, Tiger Dude, anytime, my fellow reviewer, anytime.
I am 22 Tiger Dude. Don't forget that I will always have Tiger Power!